Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Young Professionals Choral Collective podcast, also known as the Collective Voice. I'm your host, Abby Dreith, and today for our guest, we have the Assistant Artistic Director and America's Sweetheart, Katie Personke. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello.
Hello. I'm so excited to do this particular episode because I feel like out of anybody to record an episode in preparation for Gala, it's you. So I'm so excited to see what we get into. What is a weird fun fact about yourself?
Boy, do I have a weird fun fact. I have got one tiny pinky. Here's a video that you all can't see of one of my pinkies being smaller than the other hand. I don't know. I'm not a big weirdo. I mean, I'm the biggest weirdo. I guess all my facts are weird. That's my secret.
What is something that you have to do that people wouldn't expect?
Okay, I'm a dungeon master. I play D&D and I'm the DM for my local group. And we started a couple years ago and it's super fun. It lets me be creative and make all the planning details and practice my weird accents all at once. So it's like all my life coming together.
It's actually also funny because I've been a dungeon master myself a couple of times. So have you done one continuous campaign or have you done multiple ones throughout the years?
We just started kind of right after COVID, some friends and I, and we've done a couple different long campaigns. I'm actually finally playing. Our graphic designer, Jacqueline Threadgill, is now our DM. She's my neighborhood friend. So she's taking a turn. So I get to be a player for the first time. And it's a lot different than being the DM. So I'm learning a lot about D&D coming from the other direction too. It's like when I get to sing in a choir versus direct to choir.
Yeah. So like, what's the current character right now? Who are you playing as?
My name is Sunshine, the Tabaxi, because Tabaxi is the cat creature. And look, one day I'll make a character that's not the cat character, but that day is not this day. I love cats. I have a dog. There's, I guess, a fun fact people might not know about me. I got my first dog last year and he's the best, but I am very, very clearly still a cat lady. Don't call me a dog mom. I love my dog to death, but I will be a cat person until the day I die. I'm just a cat person who loves her dog.
Okay, yeah, no, exactly. I would say I'm kind of like the same where I typically prefer cats, but I like somebody else's dog. I'll love your dog. Do I want one of my own? Probably not. Respect it, but love other people's dogs. So it's kind of fun though. Like I've also played D&D for like a couple of years, kind of like in and out, where the first couple of characters I made were like very serious and I would really flesh out their lore. But then that a player is a seasoned player of D&D when they just kind of like just throw in a random name or just make a little goblin and just, mess around. People talk about like taking in a random NPC that literally has nothing to do with the campaign or like trying to seduce the big evil character. Or I don't know if you've had that happen in any of your campaigns.
Always.
Oh,
always.
yeah. What class is
I'm a warlock. And I don't know who my patron is, and I'm going to find out soon. I think we just heard the call through the wilderness.
I love
so
that.
A big mystery.
I love that, honestly. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Ooh.
We gotta know the Katie Personke lore. So give me like a background just of your life.
Ooh. Well, I'm from Michigan, first of all. I've been in Cincinnati for over a decade now, but I'll be a Michigan girl through and through. Near Ann Arbor. And that's where my family still lives. And I'm up there a lot. I have a niece and nephew, but I've been in Cincinnati for a long time. But I would say I was your quintessential choir girl, music girl. I came out of the womb singing. My grandpa had a song that he sang for me and I danced to it. And I've been singing since I've been breathing. We always joke, they've asked me before, so does your family just sing all the time? And yeah, I mean, you probably get it. Your family too. Like it's the Personke family singers. We are singing all the time. And somebody once was like, do you guys sing around the dinner table? I was like, well, I mean, sometimes.
Break out in a
Don't you? But we all sing, we all play music, some more professional than others, but we're just a very musical family. My grandpa's was always singing when I was little. And I was in band, I was in choir, I was in theater, all the cool things. And I always wanted to be a teacher when I grew up, actually. I've never wanted kids. My husband and I don't have kids now, and I've never I'm really happy. That's how I feel about people's children. I love other people's kids. I don't want my own.
Yeah.
But like, I'm the best aunt in the world. Let me come and swoop your kid up and hold them for you at a party, or come over to your house and help you. Yeah, well, and like other people's, it's big, it takes a village. So, but when I was little, I always played teacher. I never played baby mom. I played teacher. I made my brother sit at a desk and I taught him. And I loved music. So I remember trying to figure out, like, how can I both be a teacher and do music? And then one day in high school, my amazing choir teacher, shout out Mr. Hins, was like explaining how a warm up worked, like the pieces of a warm up that are important and why you do them and the things the purpose. And like, I remember that day in choirs, my junior year, I was like, oh my gosh, I could be I could be a music teacher. What? How did I never think about this before? And so then I just never looked back. I got a bachelor's in music ed. I have a master's in music ed. That's how I came to Cincinnati originally. But I've taught just about everything. I've taught pre-K through college. I work with adults. My main job is teaching elementary school music, but I also do musical theater with adults. I do YPCC with adults. So I really love adult learning as well. And yeah, I've been here for 15 years now. Somehow in Cincinnati. I moved here for college and thought I would never stay because I didn't like Ohio very much. And then I found out that Cincinnati is different than Ohio.
Yeah, it's like a limbo between Ohio and Kentucky.
Yeah. I fell in love with the city. It's really vibrant in terms of arts. I moved here in 2011 in terms of arts and music and culture and restaurants. And it was very different than what I had been in Columbus before. And like, Columbus is fine, but a little boring. Sorry if you love Columbus, listeners. I fell in love with it. I fell in love with YPCC. That's right, when YPCC started. And I couldn't imagine moving away and starting over again. So I stayed here.
That's awesome. I've been telling people when the founding director, Kellyanne Nelson, started everything, I was still a kid. And I was in a children's chorus when she was instructing that. So then I started YPCC 2024. It's a never ending cycle.
When I first started, Chris and Kellyanne were just about 40 and I was 26. And I remember saying something to them. I didn't know. I was just like, oh, are you 30? Are you a little older than me? And they're like, girl, we're 40. And now just this cycle, same one come up to me and they were like, I just did some math. Are you 40? And I was like, oh my gosh, I am Chris and Kellyanne. Which isn't great. I love being 40. 40 is great. I also love being 30. I'm not weird about aging. I like to be whatever age I am.
It's honestly kind of fun to kind of see all of that phase through since the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I met Edie Dreith with her two young preteens. And now Edie Dreith's young preteen is interviewing me on a podcast.
That is true. That is true. So a couple of questions about going to college and really going into music ed. Where did you go to college for bachelor, master's?
Went to Ohio Wesleyan, which is just north of Columbus, for my undergrad degree. It's a really small school, and I really needed that. I came from a small town in Michigan outside of Ann Arbor. And I would have been lost. I got my master's at CCM at UC, which was also a wonderful experience. But let me tell you, if I'd gone there when I was 21, I would have dropped out and cried a lot.
Exploded, yeah.
I loved my experience there at 26, but like, I was 17 when I started college. I was really young for my grade, and like, my mom had to sign my permission slips for stuff my freshman year of college. I'm so glad now that I went to like a small school. Our music department was 35 people total, and there were 9 people in my music graduating class. So it was a really great experience. It was a liberal arts school. I got to take a lot of other classes too. And I learned a lot about my voice there. I played piano the whole time. I learned that. But, and then you kind of learn, that's the hard part about music education, is you don't really learn a lot about music teaching until you start music teaching. Now I have student teachers of my own, and I always say 5% of how to be a teacher during your undergrad. And then you learn 45% of to be a teacher during your student teaching, maybe less. And then you learn the other half of once you actually start teaching, because there's just no difference in like getting in the trenches and learning what it is to be in charge of children, whatever age level it is, whether it's small or
my
big.
mom can attest to that. Oh my goodness gracious.
Yeah.
So what was the first school you taught at once you got your bachelor's or master's or wherever you started?
Bachelor's first, and then I did not have anywhere in specific, so I cast a really wide net and I applied to jobs all over the kind of the Midwest, nothing on the West Coast or too far east, because I wanted to stay near my family. But I ended up getting a job in the soybean fields west of Chicago, west of the suburbs, not Chicago, but in that direction. And I mean, I learned a lot about myself out there. I taught for 4 years teaching pre-K to third grade music. I learned how to be a person. I mean, I was 21 when I moved out there and I was awesome then and awesome now, but I didn't know a lot about myself then. I'd only lived at home. At college, I'd never lived by myself. I'd never lived away from people. And I love that. But living west of Chicago in the soy fields was not right for me long term. So after being out there for 4 years, I realized I really wanted to get back to a city. I applied to Northwestern and U of M, Temple in Philadelphia, Cincinnati, and alternate universe Katie went to Philadelphia. That's one of my split. I got into all the
Okay.
schools, and my last two were Philly at Temple in Philadelphia and UC here. And I had to make the big choice, and I chose Cincinnati. But there's a different universe, a mirror world, where I live in Philadelphia and I, studied there, and who knows what happened. But I'm sure I was equally cool there as well.
No, yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, they're kind of two very different cities, I guess, in itself. They're very different. It's not one is better than the other when it comes to the arts, because I know that Philadelphia has a really cool art scene. It's also drastically different in culture and in history,
Hmm.
because Philadelphia does technically have a much longer
Yeah,
history.
it's an old city, especially
It
for the
is an
United
old
States.
city. But with Cincinnati, it's also a really old city, obviously not as old as Philadelphia. There's a bit of a more uniqueness to it. Not to say that Philadelphia isn't unique. Philadelphia has charm, but I guess there's a lot of difference culture-wise that I feel like Katie Personke from Philadelphia would be drastically different than Katie Personke from
Think
Cincinnati.
probably. I mean, that's the thing about the choices you make is that they're the right ones. Like, I didn't make the wrong choice staying in Cincinnati. It's the choice I made, so it's the right one.
Mhm.
But I would have been different there. I mean, like, my best friend lives in Cincinnati. YPCC is in Cincinnati. I met my husband in Cincinnati. Philly Katie is probably excellent, and I'm sure she's crushing it out there. But I like who Cincy Katie ended up being. So,
There you go. So we
woo,
are doing season 14.
yeah.
And we are in the gala cycle. We started late March,
Mhm.
and now we're in it. We're well into it.
So we have been in a lot of different places for gala. The biggest problem, not problem, it's a wonderful problem to have, is the size of the space and the need for a stage. So we need to have a large performing space for 100 plus singers, but we also need to have, the seats for 400, 500 people. And a lot of the places that we used to do gala when it was in a variety of places around town, they don't fit us anymore. We were at Woodwood Theater, we were at the Transept. We've been at Masonic Temple a lot, but we've been there so much, we really wanted to try something new. So
Yeah.
Hilton they've got a nonprofit rate now, which is wonderful. Thank you, Hilton Netherlands. And so Matt and I toured it and we realized it would be such a good space for a gala. And then when you're in the Hall of Mirrors, if you haven't been there yet, it's
I have.
incredible. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It is
So
stellar.
it's modeled after Versailles and the idea of opulence. That there's a Hall of
Mhm.
Mirrors there in France. And so you can't be in that room as an artist and not, or at least for me, and not be artistic with that as your inspiration. So that idea, that was always part of it. Then we really wanted to work with Queen City Cabaret.
Mhm.
And we had the idea to do kind of a Broadway gala in this space, singing some Broadway songs. But we couldn't quite marry the idea of, the 20s Hall of Mirrors and then the Broadway. So that's when we added the idea of Sing the Queen City and that Cincinnati connection. Because Hall of
Mhm.
Mirrors is not in Versailles, it's in Cincinnati, this one. So we kind of have three sets for our music. We have a purely Broadway set, we have a middle set that uses QCC, Queen City Cabaret, and YPCC back and forth. That's kind of a mix of Broadway and jazz and
Mhm.
kind of their style of singing. And then we are closing with our Cincinnati home set, which is songs either about Cincinnati or about being home or that are like special to YPCC or me or Matt. So yeah, we've had some very, very themed galas before. Like last year was True Colors. It was Pure Imagination once. We've had galas that were like a pirate gala on a boat. We've had galas that were La Vie
Whoa.
Boheme. And the idea was more just like France
Mhm.
and that's it.
Mhm.
And so this is one, the idea is kind of like that combo of Broadway and then what makes Cincinnati special.
Yeah, I mean, well, with Broadway, it's very much your bread and butter. So
Yeah.
when I saw that, I knew you were about to have the greatest time of your life
Yeah.
conducting everything. My first cycle was Gala 2024 when John Morris Russell was the guest conductor, and that was
Yeah.
before. And it was honestly such a nice change of pace for me because I come from a very like church choral background rather than Broadway or music
Mhm.
theater. Have you seen other people going through Gala and like stepping more into the music theater route when it comes to singing style?
I wouldn't say I think that Gala is inspirational to a lot of people
Mhm.
because the Gala music is usually our most accessible music and often our easiest, which can be really welcoming. Sometimes it's more pop heavy versus musical theater. We had a gala that we sang Killing Me Softly. It was a murder mystery themed gala.
Oh.
But it always kind of tends to lean just slightly more accessible in terms of entering YPCC. It's easier to learn. It's easier to kind of finesse, which is also always great because it's like at the end of the year and we're all really tired.
Yeah.
So I've definitely seen Gala be I call it the gateway drug to YPCC. You come for Gala because someone told you they were pretty dresses and snazzy suits. And,
Absolutely.
yeah, exactly. And then you're like, what is this? And then you're like knee deep in two requiems 2 years later and like doing
Mm.
4 cycles a year. And there are some people also who just do Gala. They only do Gala. They show up at Gala every year. It's their favorite one. So, yeah, I think that Gala can be a really great way to enter YPCC. And it causes a lot of people to come back and stick around for sure.
Yeah, no, I agree because with those, I did Gala 2024 and then I didn't do the year, and then I did Gala 2025, and then after that, I was just kind of like, you know what, I'm just going to do a full year. So I've been doing a full
Here you
year
are.
and kind of coming back around to Gala, I honestly feel a lot more fulfilled when it comes to everything because I'm able to see the build up, I guess, to Gala with the fall cycle, the winter cycle, the requiems, and then to this. I feel and sense on how well curated it is with the music that you guys pick out for each cycle. And it's honestly just been really nice to see everything for the full year. So, another fun question. If you had all the money in the world and you got to just pick everything, what would your dream Gala theme be?
Ooh, dream Gala theme.
Or any music that you would put in it or whatever you would do with it?
Boy, what I'd love to do, and this is not something that I think would work for an actual gala, but there's no rules here, is I would love to do a like choral excellence gala where we program like really thick, juicy 8-part choral music
Yes.
for the whole
Yes.
thing because like that's just not what gala is, which is fine. But like in this dream world, I can do whatever I want. And so it would be really cool to sing like that much in like fancy gowns.
Honestly, okay, now I'm, like, kinda conceptualizing this, like, the
Mhm.
concept I would call it sound bathing, like,
Yeah.
as a concert, like,
Like
the
lush.
title would just be sound bathing. You just need really cool sound that could be a fun chamber choir concert.
Yeah. Boy, we got some fun stuff coming up.
Now
Matt and
we're
I have
cooking.
been dreaming. I can't say any of it yet, but Matt and I have been, we had our first big brainstorm about season 15 2 weeks ago. And then we've got like our big staff meeting where we all kind of get together and percolate in June. But there's going to be some changes potentially in how we do a couple things. We're still like, this is the second full year of Matt. That sounds right. I don't know. That feels right.
Yeah,
And so he's really kind of stepped into his comfort and like what he wants to do. The point of it is to like kind of really flex what he wants to do with the group, how he wants to arrange the season. Because that's what I love about YPCC is we don't have a lot of rules. Like the gala for a long time was in February. It was not the end of our concert. It was in the middle of February. We didn't have a winter concert until about 6 years ago. Chamber choir has been every single time of year except for fall in years past. Um, so we tend to think of like this is what has happened and like that's what we do. But I think people forget that YPCC has looked wildly different every one of these 14 years. I mean, the idea of it, people coming together who like to sing, who want to make music, who create community, that's the through line. But like what
mhm,
the concerts are and how it works is the thing that changes and adapts every single year. Sometimes it changes a lot,
absolutely.
sometimes it's very
Yeah.
similar. But I think we're gonna have some changes next year and see how it goes. Try something new.
That's really cool. This is actually kind of coming around at a time where there's a lot of arts organizations right now that have new top dogs, new directors, new presidents, new things like that. So have you, as somebody who's been with YPCC for a very long time, what have you kind of seen not only with our organization, but with other arts organizations that are also kind of in this era of transformation and moving forward?
I think this is from my experience in schools, and it's going to sound like a big umbrella, but COVID almost killed the arts. I honestly think that the reason there was all this turnover in the last couple years in arts across at least Cincinnati, that's all I know about, but it was like the final hurrah from COVID. Just at one point, we were all like, whoo, we made it. And I was like, we have not made it yet, guys. It is like funding. It has still been really difficult in the past few years. People aren't giving in the same way. And these are not YPCC specific problems. I mean, problems is a dramatic word to describe it. We're doing great. COVID broke that for a lot of organizations. And it was 4 or 5 years of just surviving post 2020. And I think finally, and I think for every organization it's going to be different, but I think we are finally getting to the point where I feel like we are a solid financial and artistic organization again. And that's not because of the staffing we had at any point. It's not because of the grants we had at any point. It's not because of the singers at any point. It's just because we were all in survival mode post COVID. Every single person in all these arts organizations, we were like, how can we get through this when we can't touch each other, when we can't sing? I mean, YPCC had the first post COVID concert. The first choir concert in Cincinnati after COVID was with YPCC. It was on the bridge. It was with Boy Choir as our partner, and we sang all masked up, 20 feet apart. Maxim and Mike and me and maybe Ginny Coleman were all on microphones to actually have voices carry behind masks. And it was incredible to sing again. But like, that wasn't real choir yet. Like, I can't believe that concert happened. But it took a really long time for organizations all across probably the world, but specifically in Cincinnati, to recover from that. The financial fallout of COVID was still haunting us way after COVID happened. We lost backers, we lost grants, we lost participation, and a lot of our money comes from the singers who sing with us. I think we all decided as a collective artistic group that we'd made it. And then, like every organization in town, had giant turnover because just we hadn't quite made it yet. And now I'm like, have we made it? Can we say that yet?
Yeah.
And I think so. I feel like we're in a lot more solid place.
The
and
general
again,
shift.
This is not because of staffing. It's not because of singers. It's because of just like the core of, yes, the ship is finally made it. Like I think we all hit the iceberg of COVID and they're like, whoo, we made it. Field.
Yeah, no.
And I think the iceberg field might be behind us now. I mean, there's always a stray, but it feels like we're on the other side. And I feel the same in schools. Boy, this is like my first normal school year. I thought we had a normal school year a couple years ago, and we did not. Because now I'm here, I'm like, oh, these kids are like, wow, they can actually interact with humans now again, and they can do things. I mean, my current 8th graders, they didn't go to school in 3rd and 4th grade. And let me tell you, those are really important years for a kid when you're 8, 9, and 10.
Yeah.
And they didn't do them. They weren't at school the whole time. And even when we were back, it wasn't full and kids were out a lot and we'd shut down for like a week and a half at a time. And those kids did not know how to interact in 6th grade. They didn't know how to talk to each other. They didn't know how to talk to adults. And it's like no one's fault, but it's just true that that's where they are. And I feel the same way about like our arts groups. Like we had all this funding before COVID and then it all dried up. And then we had to figure out like, how can we fund in a different way? And we thought we figured it out. And then nope, we hadn't. A tough few years, obviously. Like, duh. I mean, of course, that was a hard time. But I think that when people talk about the last couple years in Cincinnati about how so many different organizations have turned over, I think it's the tail end of COVID, like just the recovery. And now I'm hoping that we see less of that, subject wide.
I think that's honestly like a really insightful perspective. MML talked more about like the creative and the artistic side with all of these new people stepping in as directors and not only like executive, but like artistically. I'm also looking forward to how our art has definitely changed since COVID. Sometimes it's for the better. for good reference. Sometimes it's for the worse, and sometimes it's kind of in the middle. But so far, from what I've seen with YPCC since COVID, we're seriously like on the up and up. And I know that you talked a lot to us in the first few rehearsals about how well the Mozart Requiem went.
Yeah. Well, so I wasn't working in the springtime. I take a
Okay.
little YPCC hiatus and I direct a musical north of town. And so I was there behind the scenes, but I wasn't at rehearsals every single week. And but I know, having sung the Mozart Requiem and having heard it at different parts, it is so much work to sing a full piece of music like that. It's not for the weak. It takes a lot, both from the leadership
Yeah.
role standpoint and from the singer. Like, you got to have a lot of buy-in from your singers to do a piece like the Requiem, or any major work like that, because it's just hard to sing, and it's not fun poppy for good and sees the day from Newsies. It's like sometimes bleak lyrics in a different language with a lot going on. And the singers were so invested in that experience. And for the
Yeah.
first time, I've worked with YPC for a long time. I've been in various leadership roles, and sometimes I've just been a sectional leader. I've just been a
Mhm.
singer for a portion of it. But I have never
Yes.
heard us
Yeah.
all get better at the same time like I would expect like a high school choir to do. High school, your goal is that your choir improves every year, and you bring in the freshmen and you let the seniors lead, but you're getting better as a whole. That doesn't happen with YPCC a lot. We have a lot of turnover. That's not the goal of YPCC, certainly, is to get better. It's great when we do, but like, our goal is not to be the best choir in town. Our goal is to make beautiful music, to create community, to create a safe space for people to feel included and sing and make music together joyfully. And like, if we're good, that's great. I remember my first rehearsal I showed up to was our first concert in the dark of the night at the Emory Theater before it closed down. And I was like, well, I'll go. I love singing. And if it's good, great. And if it's not good, still great. And then like, we were good. And I was surprised because I didn't know. And we've always been good, but like, we got so much better as a whole unit singing the Mozart Requiem that at our first rehearsal for Gala, Matt and I independently both came to each other and was like, so we got to add some more music, right? This is too easy for them. Yeah. And I was like, what we really need is like a thick choral piece, our sound bath gala. And that's when we picked out Unclouded Day by Sean Kirchner. And because just you guys were ready for more of a challenge. You were going to be bored by this music, and like music that you liked, but you were
Yeah.
going to be bored singing it by about week 8. And so we had to pick a piece that was like a lot of parts and a lot of thinking and a lot of musicality to help kind of serve this post Mozart YPCC. Now, I don't know if that will continue if, a whole bunch of people decide not to sing with us, which is their right, and, fine. We might lose that shift up in artisticness, but
I agree. I mean, again, going from just Gala to doing the full year, I've also seen that sort of improvement and that sort of, thought going into a lot of the rehearsals. Because I guess for me, I'm more how I've been improving, and at least from what I've noticed within myself, it's very different because I come from the opposite side where I come from that strict church choral background where I have those tall vowels. But with Gala and with even singing the whole year, it has taught me to kind of just relax a lot more because I've just always been so uptight with all the music that I've been singing. So kind of going from that opposite end, but also still helping people from the one end learn how to, raise their vowels and like optimize their voice has honestly been like a breath of fresh air. And of course, this gala is no exception since we're a lot more Broadway centric, which is something that I never really did. It's
yeah.
honestly been fun to just see all the sorts of people with all the sorts of backgrounds kind of come together and really improve, not only on the Mozart, but even with the gala rehearsal, I see them really improve and kind of come together. There's probably that sense of like true fulfillment when you go from YPCC, like the first rehearsal, a bunch of people like maybe there's somebody who hasn't even sung a day in their life before, or somebody who is a professional singer. And then all of these people coming together, it's
Yeah.
probably some fulfilling work that you do. Mhm.
It's magical. It's why I love music. And you've heard me in rehearsal. There
Mhm.
is not one way to be a musician. There's not one way to read music. There's not one way to learn music. There's a lot of ways, and they're all really valued. And for a long time, in
Mhm.
lots of choral circles and traditions, and not like a specific choir, I'm just talking about choir in
Mhm.
general, especially in the United States, which is the only area that I consider myself a medium expert in, is it was very like Western tradition focused. And even if you were singing a song from outside of that like Western tradition of music, you were learning it as if it was a piece with, 5 lines and 4 spaces, and you were singing it and you were reading the music. And like, if you were not reading that music, it was a problem. Every choral high school class focused more on reading the music than in musicality in some ways. And I think that is such a detriment. And it wasn't that reading music is bad. Reading music is very useful. But
Mhm.
it's the important part is that it's not the only way to be a choral musician. And it's not even the best way to be a choral musician. Reading music can help you, yes, but it doesn't make you a better musician automatically. There are so many really good singers in YPCC who cannot read a single lick of music. That's not
Mhm.
like they're a great singer with an asterisk. They are a great singer and a great musician. They can't read music, and I don't care. I'm seeing that movement away from that importance happen kind of and it's not starting in high school with me as much, but like we're getting them into it. But like, sight reading, like you were in high school choir, you had to learn to sight read to go to festival. And like, that was so important. And like, it all made sense to me. My brain is a math brain and a music brain. And I love sight reading. But like, there are
It's a
people in
sense
my
of
choir who
elitism.
cried
Like,
every
it's a
time we had
little.
sight reading. And like, there are directors out there who shame you if you sight read wrong or like, yeah, and I hate that. And that's what I love about YPCC is, and Kellyanne and Dan and now Matt and me, like it's always been really clear that you don't have to learn music that way. We always have tracks. We do a lot of rote singing, which is like where I sing and you sing it back to me. That's really important is that you want to sing and you can be musical.
Yes.
And yes, I
Mhm.
want you to have good vowels because we'll all sound better. But like, what makes a good vowel? Because a good vowel means different things in
Yeah.
different spaces. And so I loved what you said about like kind of just like relaxing about it because I feel
Yeah,
like a
that's
lot
like
of
the opposite
musicianship
of
is like it
uptight and
gets very
elitist.
uptight and elitist. And I mean, I teach elementary school music for my main job. And let me tell you, what I'm not worrying about at any grade level is teaching my kids to read music. If they want to read music and join band or choir, they have some very good music educators who will teach them to do that. It is not my job as an elementary music educator to teach a child to read music. My job is to create a musical child, to teach them how to move, to teach them how to shape music, to teach them how to listen to music, to teach them how to work with another person. And if we get some music reading concepts in there, like great job, but that's not my goal. I'm not a performance teacher. I am a general music educator to teach everyone to appreciate and enjoy and know that they are a musician. No one lets me talk about it because I always annoy people, but like everyone can sing. You can sing, obviously. I can sing, obviously. But you know who all the people who can also obviously sing is everyone who's ever said to you, I can't sing. They can sing. Some terrible music teacher at some point in their life told them, you can't sing, be quiet. And I want to strangle those music teachers because singing is such a part of being a human. You can do it. There is maybe 2% of our entire population in the whole wide world who actually cannot physically match pitch because of a brain connection issue. Those people do exist, but
Yeah,
they're not the
absolutely.
people who are like, oh, I can't sing. Singing is not a talent. It's not a special skill. It's something you can get better at. It's like reading. You can learn to sing. You can learn to make music. And I feel so strongly about it. And that's what I love about YPCC. I tell all my friends who like do musical theater, hey, do
Exactly.
you want to become a better musician? Join my choir. That is how you become a better singer. You join a choir and you sing with other people. Not learn how to read. Yeah, take voice lessons. That will also do it. Voice lessons are very useful, but they are expensive and time consuming. So if you can't do that, join a choir, my choir,
No, no, that's totally
and
fair.
any choir,
So, I feel
and
like every
learn
choral
more about your
conductor that
voice.
I have come
So that's
across
my like,
has,
I'll talk
like,
about that for
their
hours.
pet peeve. When I was in high school, I wasn't necessarily, like, in high school choir. I was a choral scholar for a church choir, and a lot of the music that I learned was so difficult. But the director's pet peeve was breath marks. If you do not have your breath marks written in, and if you're not doing it properly, then that's, like, his big thing. What is, like, the pet peeve for you?
Me, but it's a loud tenor. Get out of here. Just kidding. But yeah, it's a loud tenor because you're loud automatically. You sing high. We're going to hear you. Calm down.
No,
Everyone is better with a quiet tenor. And I'm not saying like
for
because
me
a
too, me
loud
too.
tenor doesn't blend. And like I'm saying this as a loud singer. And like I also need to be quiet when I sing. But tenors who have the most beautiful voices sometimes because of where their voice sits in their range, they are so powerful automatically. And especially like if you're a tenor one, and I love all my tenor ones in quiet, but I give them a lot of
Yeah,
crap because if they really go for it, they're going to drown everybody out. You don't need a
yeah,
tenor to be a balanced section. You don't need as many because if it's
yeah.
the placement of where the tenor voice lies. And so, I mean, I don't really have a pet peeve. I love singing and everyone
It
annoys me
it's not
equally sometimes.
it's not
They're
about
really
being the
good
soloist,
and
it's
they
about being
sound
in a
amazing,
choir.
but it's not about being loud. It's about blending.
Okay,
Well,
I
I think this is coming as an alto too. I've sat next to a lot of loud tenors, and because our parts are so close to each other,
yeah, no, well,
alto tenor is a
yeah.
tough
No,
combination.
honestly,
And if I
I'm
asked a
like,
tenor, they'd
there's
probably be like
sometimes
a loud
where maybe
alto,
the
and I'd be like, so
tenor
that's
there's
the
a tenor
perfect thing.
shortage
That's
and
the
they're just
opposite of a
having a
pet
hard time. I'm
peeve.
like, if you need to put me in tenor, I can sing tenor, but it'd have to be like tenor one,
Never.
obviously. But I kind of agree with you on that because there are some people that I've known who are loud tenors. And, there's a difference between initially being a loud tenor and somebody coming up to you, be like, you're a loud tenor. We got to figure out how to blend you in here.
Let me be like clear. If you're listening and you're like, I'm a tenor, is Kitty talking about me? No, I'm not, but yeah, I am. Yes, I am. One of my favorite choral sounds is a
Yes,
beautifully blended tenor section because that can make
absolutely.
or break a piece of music. Because their voices are so present, so many choral
Hmm.
composers write really well for tenors. And the parts that are shown off. I mean, like Seize the Day, which the tenors and basses are doing at this gala, is incredible. And like the basses are great, but there's
Kind of,
some really sick tenor
yeah,
parts
I'm
that are
kind of
written and they
jealous.
sit so beautifully in their voices. The opposite of my pet peeve is when tenors really listen because they will
Absolutely,
make the whole
absolutely.
choir
No,
better
with
if they
Seize
are
the Day,
listening.
like, some of the stuff that I've been hearing with it, I'm like, "You guys get all the juicy parts." I mean, no offense to For Good, I'm having a
Mhm.
great time with For Good. It's just there's
Yeah.
one alto part, so it's like, we're working with what we got.
Yeah, I wish there was more. So many of like the pop pieces are written TTBB for the
And I'm
lower
like, "This is
voices, but
some
only
alto erasure."
SSA for the upper, which like well, and also most choirs, at least the ones that I participate in, have so many more sopranos and altos and tenors and basses. So like I personally would rather have a TTB piece and an SSAA. But
Ugh. Even
it's
even in the
not as
choral
standard
world, there's a
and
lot of
too bad.
sexism going around. Okay, so now we like went through your pet peeve. What is like one very important thing that you've learned from a voice teacher or a choral teacher that you had in the past that still sticks with you?
I don't this is something that I think has kind of snowballed my entire career. So I've spent most of my career teaching elementary school music. I've
Mhm.
spent a few years teaching choir, all this time working with adults. But I'm especially certified in elementary teaching in a subject called Orff work, which the idea is that it's sing, say, dance, and play. That all four of those things
Mhm.
come together to make a complete musician. And the idea of the dancing and the movement and the
Mhm.
connection of the body to the voice, I think is something that is often neglected and not emphasized. And so Kellyanne, our original director, she always used to say, like, when you're trying to stay in tune, like if you're going flat, raise your cheeks and your cheeks, these ones. And the idea isn't that you're like lifting up your body, that you're thinking about moving your body up and that makes you sing less flat because the voice is this. And I think I talked about this last week in rehearsal. The voice is this wild, wonky thing in your throat. You can't change fingering. You can't pull out like a head joint, like in a flute, you to be more in tune. I have to just be like, so guys, think about being in tune harder. So it's a lot about the imagery. A lot of voice teachers or choral teachers will talk about the image of something like imagine this, imagine that, pretend you have this. But I think that the idea of moving your body is so important and actually moving it up. And like, you can't always move in the middle of rehearsal, but like, I think a choir that moves is a better choir because like, whenever we're doing like a piece where we're struggling with tempo, I will have the choir all start to move with each other. If they're comfortable with it, I will have the choir start to tap on each other's like shoulders or neighbor's elbow or something to feel that sense of that beat within them and carrying through the whole thing. And the idea of pairing the movement with the voice, I think is really important. And in the small ways are when you think about raising your eyebrows, raising your soft palate. But like actually just thinking about up makes me sing more in tune. And so I think that's kind of my tip is think about how your physicality affects your singing. You're going to sing flatter if you're all hunched over. Yeah, it's because you don't have the
Mhm.
support, but also because you're thinking down.
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
think
Like,
tall, think
imagine
up.
getting a really nice pair of
So,
heels and strutting them out because then you feel taller, I guess. So, yeah. One thing that I remember you
and
talking
you
about
are.
in I think it was either the first or second gala I did, that I thought was a very insightful conversation we could have is about the vocal puberty in men versus women. Because because I remember you talked about it in
Okay.
sectionals at one point, and it's kind of like, it was kind of insightful for me as somebody who is kind of in the midst of that. Somebody who's assigned female at birth, their voice changing compared to somebody who is assigned male at birth, and kind of like how you are able to kind of work with that. Not only with like, the high school choirs when, the boys were going through puberty, but like with YPCC when you kind of made like people make the observation about women kind of going through that vocal puberty. What sort of, things have you told folks who are more soprano alto in that section that when it comes to their sort of voice, and what kind of things have you observed with somebody who's younger on the younger side, such as myself, versus somebody who's on the older side?
Give the caveat that I'm not an expert in this, and there are a lot of people. My knowledge of this is more observational and less like research and scientific based. So don't come at me. Or actually, do come at me. I love learning new things. If you're listening and I'm wrong, please come talk to me about it. That's my favorite thing. Let me say also ahead of time, and you talked about a little bit that when I was growing up, you talked about men's voices and women's voices. And I do not, if you ever hear me rehearsal, I don't use those terms
Yeah,
anymore because of inclusivity and how the
yeah.
world is not really different, but we know that it should be different now. And so I'm going to use these terms right now of men and women in a way I wouldn't normally
Maybe
use in a
people who are
rehearsal,
assigned
but because you
female at
asked about this
birth,
like
people who are
specifics.
assigned male at birth, maybe more treble versus
Yeah.
more bass.
Yeah. Well, and because what I don't know anything about
But
is
yeah,
how hormones like taking
absolutely.
testosterone or like that changes the voice in completely different ways. So basically the male voice change or assigned male at birth voice change happens quickly ish compared to, and it happens at a younger age. It's that very stereotypical where the voice cracks and then drops and then suddenly it's something new. And then it takes 3 or 4 years to kind of settle in, and then you are a bass or a tenor or a countertenor. The female voice, assigned female at birth, happens in a completely different and much longer way. It also starts around the same time. If you are a soprano or alto and you remember a period when you were like 15 or 16 where you didn't have like a couple notes right in the middle of your voice, like you had low notes and then you stopped singing and then you had high notes, that was your first major voice change. Sopranos and altos get this thing where they are missing some of their notes. Not all of them, but some at a portion of times. And that's because their voice is developing. But it also continues developing through your 20s to your 30s. And a mature female voice doesn't really happen until you're 35 or 40. Your
Yeah,
voice is going
absolutely.
to, it depends on the person, 100%, but kind of just like deepen and
Yeah.
settle. And I'm not saying move down necessarily, but like the tone of your voice. If you ever hear me and Matt or any choir director probably you've ever worked with talk about how, wow, you sopranos, you sound like you're in eighth grade right now. It's because younger sopranos have that very thin, and altos too, have that very thin sound where they
That's
sound
something
like
that I'm
younger
still
children because
struggling
they
with.
are younger children. I like my
Wonder
voice now as a 40-year-old woman is completely different than it was when I was 25. And I love my voice now. I don't think I loved it when I was 25. I was a great singer. I could do lots of things, but my voice didn't feel like mine as much as the way it does now. And also, yeah, I'm older and I know more about my voice, but your voice just changes for like 20 years. And I feel like puberty is like the easy way to describe it, but it's more just like the aging of your voice takes a long time. Think about like wine or like whiskey if that's more your thing, or like cheese if you're range has blossomed. So that's why I think things like choir and voice lessons, if you can make them happen,
Mhm.
are really important because they will teach you how to use your
Yeah.
voice in all these different stages of life. The woman's voice
Yeah.
change happens for a very long time, and it's not talked about because it's really, really subtle for a lot of people. And some people are going to listen, our millions of viewers and be
Yeah.
like, "My God, I could totally tell it wasn't subtle at all," which is also true. Some women, their voice cracks, their voice drops. It feels a lot more like a, 13-year-old boy voice, but it just takes a long time for your voice to develop. So, and I think part of it is just living through it. At
Yeah.
30, at 40 is going to be a completely different instrument. It's really, really cool how voices change as you age. And it will continue to change. Just because that puberty period is like over in your 30s doesn't mean your voice won't change more, but it should kind of settle into a place where your range is not moving around, where like the place where your voice breaks doesn't move around as much. I mean, my voice used to
Yeah.
break really high, like around a D, and now it breaks around an A. And some
Mhm. Yeah. I would say I would agree with that, at least because I know that, like, we're talking more like you're on the end of that sort of journey and I'm more towards the beginning. I could always really sing like descant when I was a kid, and I still have the ability to do that. For me, it's kind of volume control when I get really high up there because I do have the notes. It's just they're going to be really loud and may shatter
Mm,
windows or mirrors.
yeah.
Honestly, just been really fun to kind of hear about that. And, sometimes I always feel a little forlorn. There's always like when you're whatever voice part you end up settling in, like for me right now, it's
Mhm.
alto. Sometimes I absolutely love being an alto and it's so much fun. And sometimes I'm like, oh man, pieces that I've rehearsed in the past, the alto part is boring. And it's like, you always feel a little forlorn, but like, there's different ways to kind of go about it rather than just kind of sit in the pits about it. Learn to kind of optimize my voice at the moment and also know that there's some notes that I have that aren't stable at the moment, but who knows, they might be more stabilized in the future.
Well, the voice part identity crisis is something that at some point in every singer's life you will
Oh,
visit.
yeah.
And let me tell you, the voicings Matt did gave some people a little identity crisis about what part they should be singing. And so, something I always tell people is that your voice part should change throughout your life,
Yes.
especially if your voice is moving, but your range is different than what voice part you should be.
Yes.
I have a huge range. Sorry, just like talk about how great I am, but like I have a very large range. And part of that is because I have trained for 30 years to be a singer. So I've been working on that range.
Mhm.
But also, like, vocal cords are weird. They're little rubber bands in your throat. And every choir I've ever sung in, the first time I sing for the director, they hear my high notes and they're like, "You're a soprano one." Because not now in this voice, but I could go up to a high C. And my speech therapist believes that I can go up there again one day if I can get healthy.
Period.
But like, I have a huge range. Do I belong in the soprano section? No. I am too loud. I cannot
Yep.
blend. I
I'm there
overpower
with
people.
you.
I am my own loud tank, let me say. I'm my own pet peeve, but don't fit as well. So your voice part, especially like when you do the voicings that Matt did a few weeks ago,
Yeah.
it's more about where your voice fits the
Mm.
best within your huge
Yeah.
range. If I sing soprano, my voice wears out fast.
Yeah.
I have those high notes. I
Oh my
cannot
god, it.
sing
Yep.
them all day long. For some people, it's the opposite. They have all the low notes in the world, but if they go to sing those for a whole concert, they are exhausted.
Mhm.
So, where your voice can last the longest has a
Mhm.
lot to do with what your vocal part is. Where your voice sounds the best has a lot to do. So, there are like alto ones who are now in the alto 2 section and they're like having a crisis. There are soprano ones who are in the soprano 2 section and they're like, "Matt told me I should be this." And like,
It's
Matt
Yeah.
It's up to you. You can. This
Do
is
whatever you want.
YPCC.
Yeah.
We are not May Festival. You sing the part that is in your dreams. Matthew Swanson is not chasing you down and making you sit in a seat. This is YPCC. You're here on Tuesday. We're so glad you're here. If you want to go sing whatever part you want,
It's
do
kind of
it.
ironic because I did sing with May Festival for a concert in September. I don't know if you know the video game franchise Final Fantasy.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
sing the Final Fantasy
Yeah.
one. Yes.
I actually was put in soprano too. And
Yeah.
so that was honestly, it was a different change of pace for me because I'm always typically soprano 2, alto 1, mainly alto 1, but if you need a soprano 2, you can have a soprano 2. And with the voicing with MML, it was so funny because he did it for both Brahms because I sang in that one. I didn't perform in it because I got sick, but when
I
he did the
remember.
voicing, it was the worst. But with the voicing that he did both times, I sang "Row, row, row your boat." He's like, "You are getting down to the end of the line." And someone who typically say I'm alto 1, he said you're an alto 2. At first, I was having a bit of a struggle with it, but then I thought to myself, this isn't like permanent. This is just for with the voices that we have now. And
It's with these voices. It's on that day. It's with this group.
yes,
And also, it's okay to sing the wrong part for your voice. Maybe that's a controversial opinion. It's okay. If you were told you were a soprano 2 by Matt and you're like, no, I'm a soprano 1. No, B, you're a soprano. Like, then go sing soprano 1. Like, just because it's your voice part does not mean you have to sing it. It's more like if everything worked perfectly and everybody, like, it's just where your voice sits. Like our email said, the voicings are to make your job easier. And if it's making your life harder, switch.
Yeah.
But it's okay to switch. It's good for your brain to switch. I always tell people, try it. And Carolyn and I were doing it all the time. You sing soprano, learn some alto. You will learn so much about music by singing another part. You might hate it. It'll be hard the whole time. You can quit the next year and go back to it. But you'll learn a lot singing a part that's not your own.
I recall
It's like making yourself learn.
recall one time, and I was like 16 maybe, where there was like the Collegium series that they do in the summer. And I was kind of like a little like scholar liaison. It was like a lot of the chamber music, which was really fun. And then there was Masterworks, which was the huge, gigantic choir. And you want to know what voice parts they placed me? So for the chamber, I sang soprano 1.
Great.
And then for the Masterworks, I sang alto 2. And there were certain sequences where they were like, you're going to sing tenor for this. And that was honestly just like really fun to do. So anybody who's listening, who's like their first cycle, please never hurts to try something different. If you're like for Gala, you're like, I'm sick and tired of being an alto 2, then come in as a soprano 2 for fall or whatever. It's honestly kind of,
there's a reason we let you choose your voice part.
Absolutely.
And I've seen people who've sung lots of parts throughout their time. There's a lot of people that switch back and forth. Speaking of Collegium, though, that was our inspiration for doing the requiems. I kept telling Matt, hey, Collegium used to do this summer choral work, and all of YPCC would sign up. We're just dying to do a requiem. Let it happen. And Matt was like, how about 2? And I said, man, I don't know.
But wait,
that sounds like a lot of requiem.
Yeah, no. Kind of grateful that I only did the one because he's like, if you like torturing yourself, you could do both. And I'm like,
there's about 3 or 4 people who did both, and like mad props. I can't believe you.
Absolutely.
Way to go. What a commitment to requiems, to choral literature.
Yeah. What are you like watching right now? If you're watching anything.
I'm watching Avatar: The Last Airbender for the 400th time.
Yes!
Obviously.
I just started rewatching it because there's the new
Zutara Forever.
Oh, I may have to cast you out in the street for that one.
Look, Zuko is my heart. Like, he's the best redemption arc in all of writing, and I love him.
No, I like Zuko, but like Zutara,
every time I watch this, I'm like, okay, this is the time you're gonna like Katara and Aang. This is it. And then about 4 episodes, and I'm like, ugh.
No, here's the thing.
You mean I think
you're gonna change your mind with the new movie because they.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm 40 now. I think it's medium age appropriate.
The bare minimum.
But they're also cartoons, so it's fine. I got to introduce it to my husband last year, and now we're in our second rewatch together. I was like, have you ever watched Avatar: The Last Airbender? He's like, no. Amazing. And I was like, oh my God, you're going to love it. And guess what? He did.
Yeah.
I think Iroh's my favorite. I mean, and I'm like the person who likes to pretend I'm a very chill, cool waterbender, but no, I'm like fire all the way. Oh my God, I just love Avatar so much.
Yeah, no.
Anyways, if you haven't watched Avatar: The Last Airbender, and I'm talking about the
God.
cartoon from Nickelodeon, by the way, don't watch the movie that it came out a while ago with Jasper from Twilight. Don't do it. We want to
No, we
watch
don't claim
this
her.
one. It will change your life. It's a show for children, and you will cry more than you think you should.
Have you seen The Legend of
Okay, I
Korra?
started watching Korra, and here's my fatal flaw: is I don't like steampunk. I don't find steampunk in general.
Steampunk has its time and place.
We're gonna watch Korra after this because I have only seen the first episode and then I just got tired of it. But again, it's because I don't like steampunk. But like I heard it gets super gay and I can't wait. I think I was really afraid that I was being queer baited by it. And I was like, I just can't handle this. And so, and
You are
also
not.
with
You're not.
the combination of being it's so steampunk heavy, which is just like not my favorite trope. I love fantasy. I read so much fantasy and sci-fi, and there's maybe like 2 steampunk books ever that I've enjoyed. I just don't find the magic and Victorian industrialism an interesting combination.
And it's really hard to do it right.
Like it's more about like gears on hats, and I'm like, I don't care. So I'm going to give Korra another try though. After we finish this run through, we're going to go to Korra because I just want it to be gay.
I mean, at first it seems like it isn't, but then like I kind of like yell at my TV.
Yeah,
where
I've heard
I
Korra's
guess
worth it. You just have to like get through the first part. So
yeah, don't get enough love. Like I tell people, like Sokka, like genuinely is an objectively great fighter.
Sokka's
and
probably
he was
my favorite
childhood crush.
character in general. I don't know. I just love Sokka.
Yeah, no, he's just fun.
For a podcast about Atla, everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay. Now, what are like some restaurants or places that you're going to locally that you've been enjoying lately?
So I live in Pleasant Ridge. We just got a new Indian place called Ziqr, Ziqr. That is excellent. I've been there for both dinner and like happy hour cocktails. It's in the old Revolution Rotisserie space, RIP. I miss that place all the time.
Wait.
On the corner, it's where Imanu, which was Ethiopian and also incredible, was like 10, 15 years ago. And then Revolution took the space after the owner of Imanu retired. And then they closed down and now it's called Ziqr and it's really good. It's top-notch Indian. They got really good cocktails.
I went to school for creative and performing arts. That's where I graduated high school from. Across the street, there was a Revolution Rotisserie where the milkman is now. And after school, for all the kids who had the high school jobs, they could just go in and get some tater tots and go sit out in Washington Park.
Most of YPCC in the early 20s, probably at the same time as SCPA was there. It was that's where we would go before choir every week. Me and Dave Brat would sit there and eat tater tots every Tuesday.
So good.
From 5:30 to, and then we'd tootle over to First Lutheran after some beers and tater tots. Yeah, no, Revolution was like a core part of early YPCC because it was free tater tots during happy hour, everyone. You don't understand. Talk about like a Cincinnati legacy memory. Free tater tots at Revolution. So glad you experienced that at a completely different time in your life as me, but it's the same exact memory. Yeah, no, they closed down completely. Well, Milkman is owned by the same people, if it helps.
Recently, my mom and I went back to Yard House for the first time in a long while. And that was actually before we did the drone shot for IPCC. And we had the poke nachos.
In case you don't know, they're called the Yard House because you can order a yard of beer. It's in this very tall glass vase.
Yes.
And you drink it, and it's terrible because it's a yard of beer and it gets warm instantly.
Yes.
But I feel like people sleep on the food there because it is really good every time I've been.
What are some things that you've kind of reflected on as we're in the last cycle?
Really proud of where we are. And this, I think, is going back to that COVID conversation we had earlier, but that I sometimes can't believe that this community choir made up of just random people survived COVID. Of course, the May Festival is going to survive COVID. Of course, CSO, of course, Children's Theater. But like our little baby group, at the same time as COVID happened, already have our founding like a lot of groups don't survive their founding artistic director. So like we were already like nervous about it. And then COVID happened and we never said goodbye to her. Like the fact that Kellyanne left unplanned in the middle of COVID and we like survived post it is an incredible testament to the leadership at the time.
Absolutely.
I mean, incredible. Dan did an incredible job post-COVID at keeping our choir alive. Way to go. And then to have a third artistic director also doing stuff. And the past maybe 5 or 6 years have felt I've been so involved in YPCC the entire time, but especially the last maybe 5 years. And for a long time, I was like the keeper of the knowledge. And like, I remember like my goal when I first joined YPCC was like, maybe one day I can help lead this. And then I suddenly was, and it was like, off the rails. It was a wild time for a while. And the fact, like, I remember it was after last spring's Kaleidoscope concert where I was like, oh my gosh, I could leave and this choir will be fine. And like, that's not like because I'm amazing. It's because I felt like at one point I was holding a lot of the reins and it was like stressful because like I was not a staff member for a large portion of YPCC. And suddenly I was like the staff member holding it together artistically. And I feel I am so proud. Like we have 8 staff members now. 8. We had a staff meeting the other day and there were 8 of us there. It was incredible. There is so much less work I have to do and Matt has to do because there are 8 staff members. And it's just really exciting. I mean, we survived both our artistic director leaving the same time as COVID, our artistic director and our executive director leaving at the same time, not because of any reasons, but just happened to the timing work out. And like we are now on the other side. We spent a year without an artistic director and 6 months with an interim executive director. Let me be clear. I was not the interim artistic director. We did not have an artistic director for an entire year.
And you guys did a really good job with that because what you guys did is rather than like panic and be in the dark about it, you decided to use other talent in the community.
Everybody got a scoop of ice cream. So that people could try different things. And now we're here and I feel so good about what we're doing but just like the momentum going forward. I remember when at one point we had a staff meeting and our executive director asked, what are your goals for YPCC in the next year? And everybody was like, I want to create funding and I was like, I want to survive this year. And everybody was like, oh, that's pretty bleak, Katie. And I was like, that's my goal. I don't think we've made it through COVID. Like this was all again, and we did. And we are, I don't feel nervous that we're going to have to survive anything right now. Like I feel really confident in the group. I feel confident in what my position is. I feel confident in Matt's position. I feel confident in our staff. I feel comfortable in the singer buy-in. There were a couple of years where like singers were not volunteering. Singers were not, and I'm not like blaming the singers, but we weren't creating that buy-in for them. And I feel like we've really we stepped into a new age for us where we are a little more confident as a whole group. We're a little more settled. We're a little more organized. And that's a really big deal. Like, I feel like this whole staff that we currently have could transition and we would be okay with the next staff. Like, I'm not saying we're good because of Matt. We're not good because of me. We're not good because of Mary. We are good because this whole staff could leave, not at the same time, please. But like we could all leave and it would be okay. I feel good. I don't think I've ever felt that with YPCC, including back when we were like in our first few years, really crushing it with Kellyanne. If Kellyanne left, we were gonna fall apart. And then she did, and then COVID happened. And we didn't fall apart. And so I feel really confident about the longevity and the future of YPCC. And it's not tied to me. It's not tied to Matt. It's not tied to Kellyanne. It's not tied to Dan. It's not called to Jenny. It's not tied to a single person. It is tied to the organization, and we're finally getting there. And that's what I'm really excited about.
That's awesome. And I think that's something really cool to kind of reflect and observe with, especially with Matt's second full year as artistic director. And I've honestly kind of seen YPCC like become this more formal established organization, which is really cool. If there was any teasers or anything for next season, is there anything you could say? Even if it's just like a little, if it's something out of context, you're like, this, you'll get it later.
Okay. The things that I want to share are not solidified. So I don't know if they'll happen, but we are thinking about a new place in the year for chamber choir and a major work.
Are they like major work as in like moving it, like the
performing another major work with chamber, but it would at a different point of year than it is right now. And this also may not come to fruition, but it was a brainstorm Matt and I had the other day, and I think it could be cool, and I think it might happen. So we'll find out, me and you, because I don't know.
Well, it's been so much fun having you, Katie, on the podcast for our second ever episode.
Coolest stuff.
And also talking about loud tenors and choral puberty, because it's never over. Surviving COVID, because that's never over as well. All right. I hope you all had a really great one. Make sure you listen to us on all streaming platforms, whether it's YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, the whole enchilada. And we will be seeing you guys again very soon.
Bye.